we had cows and sheep and a few horses, and we sold cream over at Corvallis to the creamery, and got a little income there. And then my dad had sheep. We sheared the sheep and sold the wool to Earl Harris in Corvallis at the old Corvallis Freight Depot, and that was part of our income. And then we sold some timber to Ben Ellis, and it's a pretty good chunk of timber over on the other side of the river, and that was during the war. And then, but we had to put up hay every year for cows, and I used to shock hay, pile it up in the pile, and then we'd haul it in on a wagon with a hay rack on it, and take it up behind the barn. And my dad would have a fork like a harpoon he'd stick into it, and then we had a rope went from the fork up to the top of the barn, and then and had a pulley, and then it went down the other end of the barn, down and out the other end with a pulley, and you had a team of horses on the other end, and they'd say, "Go ahead," and they'd just bring up a big wad of hay, and then they'd the carriage was on rollers, and they'd go over the hay mow, and then somebody would say, "Trip it," and then they'd trip that, and the big wad of hay would come down, and the wind would blow, and you get chaff over it. And then if you was in the mow, you had to drag it back and flatten the hay mow, and that was quite a job. And the neighbor used to help. I remember Joe Gray, he's a neighbor, come down to help me. He'd tell us kids to skedoodle if we got on the road. And I remember him doing that. And then
Dad was working for Grover Clark, and I was 17, so I was helping him. And then I went into the service, and I was 17. We went to in the Marine Corps. And my brother Albert, he was already been in the service since a little after December the 7th. Anyhow, we went through my basic training in San Diego at the Marine base. Then we went to Camp Elliott. And then we went to Camp Pendleton. And then we went from there, went back to Camp Elliott, I think, and then we shipped out overseas to New Zealand, did our training there. And from New Zealand we went to Guadalcanal, and from Guadalcanal we that was our jump-off base. It was kind of halfway secured when we was there. And from there we went to Villa Vella and got a good beating there. And from there we backed off to Guadalcanal again. And there we went to Bougainville. And from Bougainville we went back to Guadalcanal. And from there
well, you got malaria and they sent you home about that time, isn't it?
Yeah. I ended up in Oakland Old Naval Hospital. And from there, I was sent to Keyport, Washington. And when I was on leave there at Paulsbo, I met my wife. And from after I was discharged, I went home, and pretty soon we got married.
My dad was a railroad telegrapher for the Northern Railroad up there, and so most of our heavy stuff was shipped out here, and in fact when we came out the first time to see in 27, that we came out on the train and we came into Corvallis at the old train station there, you know. But no, we came out here in that Afferson Jackrabbit, and that was quite a trip. It was a lot of fun, and of course the roads coming out were dirt roads mainly. So it was very interesting. There was only one place on the trip, and that was at Mountain Home, Idaho, that we did get a cabin, but the rest of the time it was just camp out, you know, wherever you could. And it was a great trip, but it was great to get here. Well, after Pearl Harbor, why then, of course, we were living at Newport at the time, and I remember when we heard that Pearl Harbor was hit, why everybody grabbed their hunting guns and went out because they thought they were going to be the invasion, you know. Well, it didn't happen, but anyhow, I decided that I would go ahead and enlist. Well, the funny part about this malaria part is that we had to sleep under netting all the time in order to, because any mosquito would, if you got bit, why you were going to get malaria. That's all it was. It's common back there. But the ball turret gunner was a real good friend of mine. We were real buddies, and he laid in the cot next to me. He never ever used his netting, and I slept under the netting all the time. He never got it, but I got it. When VE Day came, I was in Denver, Colorado, going to school to train to go to the Pacific on the B-29. And I remember that was on VE Day. You've seen these old pictures of the girl or the sailor hugging the girls and all that kind of stuff. That was real. That was a good time. Yeah, boy, that almost made me forget.